you know what, if I can't be digestible to you, that's fine, you can choke. I think that more people need to embrace that because I think that's like the heart of authenticity.
Today I'm interviewing model, actor, and culture catalyst Nova. Not only are they a force in modeling, acting, and production, but they are also a huge advocate for inclusivity and gender equality. Stay tuned. Hi, Nova.
Hi, Ivana.
How are you doing today?
I am so great because I'm here.
Yay, I'm happy. I'm really excited to speak with you today and to get into some really great topics, as well as your career journey. So, Women in Windows, tell me all about the platform. Tell me about how it started and your involvement in it.
Women in Windows, we are a platform that uplifts the voices of underrepresented filmmakers, usually women, marginalized people, trans, non-binary, gender expansive. The reason why it was started was because, especially during the pandemic, there was such a lack of connection. And the founder, Zara, who I work with, she's amazing. You'd love her. She realized that there was a severe lack of femme perspectives in film. It's so male dominated. And I don't know about you, but like watching film and TV from only the male perspective caused me to really like reckon with my personhood. And so when you see the female gaze in film, it is so profound. Like the little details that are in these stories and just like perspectives that usually don't get shown. So I started working actually just doing social media, but my involvement grew as I started to, scout filmmakers myself. What we're trying to do is to make these films more accessible. There's so many filmmakers starting out. They can't get their things out into huge like theaters or even in like streaming services. It costs a lot of money. It's such a huge feat to be able to make a film and bring it to life. But then the other half of it is promotion. And usually like the funds have like dwindled out. But it can be so inspirational to watch a piece of art. And so we want to make it accessible and we want to make sure that, people who don't usually get to see these things or people who don't usually get to show their films are able to do that and we connect the two communities. So I was really proud when I watched the film Joyland. So in Pakistan, it is very conservative in a lot of ways, but in South Asia, there actually is like a huge trans community.
Really?
And transness in South Asia, transness in, like Islam, Hinduism, like Buddhism, it exists.
Like it's more common than you would think?
Yes. It was colonization that, made everything homophobic and transphobic. And not to say that it was like a perfect society, but they completely erased those identities. So when the film Joyland came out, that was so profound for me because the lead is a trans woman, and the story is not just about this trans woman going through trauma. It's actually kind of not even about her at all. It's about the main character is this man who reckons with like the hierarchy in his family, and the whole family is like put under this like microscope, and it really examines patriarchy in Lahore. And the trans woman is just living her best life and just like achieving her dreams, and she does spark something in him, but it's not like a weird fetishy sort of story. So this film, I realized that we needed to have trans black and brown people, queer black and brown people, to have access to this film. And so there was this incredible screening of it with the entire cast and the director. And those tickets were like $200, but I wanted to make sure that it reached the people that needed to see it, that would feel seen by it. So we gave away 2 tickets to it, where they got to also hear from the people who were involved in making this film.
Yeah.
And that was my idea. I even wrote a piece on our journal for Women in Windows. And that was when I started to have more involvement in programming instead of just social media. Because at first it was like, me trying to do this ticket giveaway so that we could grow our socials.
Right.
But then it became so much
So
more.
much more.
And then that summer, we got to partner with Oxy Arts for the Sake of Dancing exhibition that was happening there, and we did a screening of Joyland with a panel with Sana Jaffrey, who is the co-producer who helped to cast
Wow.
Alina Khan, who is the trans lead, and Mo Naqvi, who is an incredible filmmaker. He's like a 4-time Emmy nominated
Oh, wow.
like documentary filmmaker.
Yeah.
Awesome dude, sweetie pie. So that was a huge moment for me because I realized how like this one idea led to something so much bigger and such an important conversation about what I just mentioned about transness, queerness existing in South Asia before like colonization, and then how like Islam and like the way that Islam was even practiced in Pakistan kind of shifted. So it was a really transformative panel. And from then on, I started to work on programming. I started to scout people. I started to curate these spaces.
Yeah.
And it's so freaking fulfilling.
I love that. Why windows? Why do you think, or how do you see the use of windows as a way to increase the impact of the stories that are being told?
Yeah, so it's funny because it's both very literal and also very metaphorical as well. So during the pandemic is when Women in Windows started, and we would have these galleries where the films were showing outwardly to the street. And so people would have like QR codes where they could listen to the audio, but they would see it through the windows. And that was a way to make it accessible and free, like, but a way for people who are like passing by, they can still have a connection. They can still hear about society and the perspectives. They could still hear their perspectives of underrepresented women and femmes and their ideas of society and culture.
I love that. I think in recent years, there has been a huge shift in the culture where people are finally understanding the importance of the female perspective with the female gaze. I'm really glad you mentioned that. And like we have a woman running for president again, which is so exciting. What changes would you like to see moving forward when it comes to sharing the stories of women?
This might be kind of radical, but I wish that it was just in the same categories as men. Just because it's just like, obviously there's like different perspectives, and that's what makes, and the differences between genders is what makes everyone's perspective so unique. At the same time, I kind of feel like when there is a divide, I wonder if it means that they can't compete with one another. Like, if that, I don't know if that makes sense. I wish that women in general, their perspectives in general, were just treated with the same regard as men's. I wish it wasn't just like I wish we didn't have to have a Women in Windows. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I hope that there comes a point where like a woman will like say something and then it'll be heard the first time, and then it doesn't have to be like a guy repeating what she said, louder and over her and then getting credit for that, because I feel like that happens a lot in so many professional spaces. And sometimes I feel like that happens a lot in like artistry, where I feel like men will see something that's working for a woman or like something that they say, and then they like, kind of parrot
They
it,
steal it.
and then they get props because like, oh my God, this man is so sensitive and so emotionally intelligent and like whatever. It's just like a bad bitch gave him the fucking script.
Yeah. Exactly. And that's the worst. And you can always tell. I think men can't tell that we can always tell when they're doing that. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? It's like it's such a
Like
pick
that's
me
bell
thing.
hooks.
Yeah.
Like pack
Like
it up.
stop. Yeah, okay. Let's get into the modeling a little bit. So you're signed with LA Models, Curve. How did that happen? Were you scouted? Did you apply?
Okay, so me getting signed to LA Models is actually really funny.
Really?
It's a really funny story. First of all, I have to shout out my mother agent, Amna. She is incredible, like a sweet, beautiful woman who really, really cares about her models. And like, you know, when I first started modeling, it was so hard because, I'm both curvy, Bangladeshi, um, gender queer, and then also just like on the shorter side. So it's just like all these things that felt like
Yeah.
didn't fit. And I am just one audacious bitch. I'm just like someone who's just like, I'm gonna just do it. Like who's gonna stop me?
Yeah.
And honestly, that's gotten me very far. And somehow Amna, my mother agent, was able to scout me. And I am so grateful to her because like it really just takes one person. It takes one person to believe in you, to see your beauty, to want to share your energy and beauty with the world. Because if it was me on my own, I would have quit. I wanted to quit so many times. And for people who don't know, a mother agent is basically the person who kind of develops you and also places you in different markets. So when I was actually in LA for that screening of Joyland and our programming with Oxy Arts, while I was in LA, she submitted me to a bunch of agencies. I only heard back from one. The only one that wanted to see me was LA Models, right? And this is the funny part. I didn't do any research on LA Models. I didn't know how big of a deal it was.
Yeah, because I'm like the only one being like one of the best.
Right. So I told myself, you know what? Like, obviously, like this would be a dream of mine. I've always wanted to be a bi-coastal model. This would be such a huge dream. This is something I've always wanted, but I didn't want to put so much pressure on myself. I was like, they're welcome. They're welcome that I came in. So that was my energy.
Yeah.
So that morning, I took out, my jeans from like the washer dryer, and like they're like sexy jeans. They're like they're like make my butt look nice. They're like flared. I was wearing I think I was wearing this when I came in.
That's so funny. That's your lucky top.
Right,
Okay.
my lucky top.
Yeah.
And then I realized there was a huge gaping hole like around my butt, and I was like, not my favorite jeans.
No.
And also, those were the only jeans I brought with me. Because, like, the other pants that I had were, like, cargo pants.
That's
but,
such
like,
a nightmare.
it was so crazy. And I was just like, ugh.
But you know what? Sometimes on days like that where the worst things happen, those are the days where, like, the best news come. Or, like, it'll just be,
true.
like, it turns around and it ends up being the best days. I don't know about you, but I have experienced days like that, and I always come out of it just grateful.
Sometimes something, like, it had to happen.
Yeah.
And I think, like, I'm such an insanely unhinged person that I was just like, this ain't gonna stop me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna get what I came to get.
I'm gonna get signed regardless.
And if they like me, great. If they don't, like, seriously, they're lost.
Yeah.
Because I know how awesome I am.
Mm-hmm.
And I think having audacity is so important, especially when you know you're someone who's beating the odds. Or, like, have to go through, like, several hoops that someone else might not have to, I knew the things that were stacked against me, and it takes a lot of audacity to, like, be like, I'm gonna do this anyways. Why is a hole in my pant going to, stop me? So I was like, I'm already here. So I just went in and, my skin was popping. I looked so good that day. I walk in and I'm like squeezing my butt a little bit just to like make sure like maybe like the hole can be like covered. And as soon as my agent walked in, like it was so wild. Like as soon as she walked in and we saw each other, there was like this palpable palpable energy
Yeah.
between us.
Yeah.
And it like literally felt like things slowed down. First of all, she's stunning.
Yeah.
Love you, Connie.
So you were like admiring her at the same time.
Right.
You guys were admiring each other.
It felt like there was like a connection there, and we just like talked, and I told her about what I was doing in LA. I told her about Women in Windows, and just told her how much like building community, having difficult conversations, moving through them, and like learning about one another and each other's perspectives is so important to me, because I've always been a very political person, and yeah, that's also one of the reasons why I model. It's because, Bangladeshi people, we survived a genocide just 50 years ago. And even in the South Asian diaspora, we're looked down upon. So we're not even given the same space as Indian people, rich Indian people at that. Pakistani people, there's also a little bit tension sometimes there, but we're healing, we're healing. So there's a lot of things for me to navigate through, even just as a Bangladeshi person specifically. That's why I don't say South Asian. And explaining all these things and like why I do what I do, I think really resonated with her. And I was signed on the spot. And I literally like left and I sat down somewhere and I was just like, how, like, it just felt like everything was like falling into place, like something that felt so impossible, something that like I thought like was just never gonna happen for me or could never happen for me, did, because I would just refuse to, I don't know, I just refused to stop.
To back down. Yeah. And that's a true testament to like the power of authenticity and like bringing yourself to a room. Like people can read that. People can see that. Like you said, it's palpable. And I love that. I love that story. What is one piece of advice that you would give to close out this interview to any creatives who are looking to make a difference with what they do?
Yeah. I think it's obviously like we have all these conversations about being authentic, and I feel like sometimes we don't really know what that means because there's so many versions of like people and trends and like aesthetics that we're constantly being fed. Like just thinking about what women have to go through, like what's the clean girl aesthetic? What's the like mob wife aesthetic? Like, what are these things, I have always been aware that I am not a palatable or digestible person. And so I'm like, you know what, if I can't be digestible to you, that's fine, you can choke. And I think that more people need to embrace that, because I think that's like the heart of authenticity. It's not being cruel to other people. It's not saying like abandon your community. It's like recognizing that you have a duty and you owe it to yourself, you owe it to your ancestors, you owe it to your community to show up synthesizing information in a way that is like literally just your own thoughts and beliefs about the world. Take that time to really understand how you show up in the world and then how you want to, and then also just like embrace other people as well. Like be so teachable, but don't be moldable.
You heard it here. That was so good. Thank you so much, Nova.
Thank you so much.
That was amazing.
Thank you so much for watching this episode. Make sure to check the description to tap in with us on social media. And as always, stay tuned next week for another episode of How She Did It.